So my name is Janina Krabbe. I'm the granddaughter of Dutch immigrants. My grandparents moved to Canada after World War II. And I was raised in Alberta, in the country. There was a little forest behind our house, and my siblings and I would get lost just playing all sorts of games through the trees and making rafts in the ditches in the spring when the water was high. And yeah, so that space and that land, Treaty 6 territory in Alberta, really formed me and my love of being outside. As a family, we did a lot of camping and just had a lot of space to let our imaginations run wild. And that was really encouraged by my parents too. So yeah, I think those shaped a lot of who I am and what I love. And so I am someone who has leaned into multiple loves at the same time. So I'm very passionate about participating in creating a better world and disrupting the oppressive systems that we're currently caught up in. And so I'm a white woman, and I see my role as following a lot of the great Indigenous and BIPOC leaders who are really forging that path and following their wisdom and guidance, and then also helping to bring other white people into that conversation and into participation in that movement through art and conversation and collaboration. So I get most excited about group projects. So in school, I was really frustrated by them, as everybody was, I think. But now I really prefer to do work in a collective setting with other people, and so I get most excited about the work that happens in those spaces. I'm part of a student collective that is working with people who are formerly incarcerated, working to promote kind of prison abolition. It's really powerful. I am just constantly learning a lot every day and really grateful for those opportunities. Yeah, just me by myself in the corner. I think I would just, I don't know, maybe create a weird picture on the wall, but it wouldn't go very far. But when you come together with other people, there's such a beautiful wealth of ideas and inspiration and challenging one another and really kind of sharpening each other in a really good way. Yeah, I think I've been most surprised by that kind of movement in my life. Nature has a lot to teach us. Growing up, nature was something that I loved, and it was something that I explored. But now I see nature very much as a teacher and a guide. And for example, living on the sailboat, as I do currently here on Coast Salish waters, just really been learning about the ocean and living in such close proximity to the ocean and how that's cultivated such a deep respect, and a respect for the ocean in all of its ways of being. So it's become not just on happy, calm days when you're just kind of motoring along, but also in the storms, and there's a sense of response to the ocean rather than, or I should say, it jars us very quickly out of this sense that we control nature, that we have any control over the ocean whatsoever. When you're in the middle of the Georgia Strait and the winds are howling at 30 knots, you are very aware of how little you control and how powerful the ocean and the winds, and just how it all works together in this really beautiful way. The tide and the moon and just the connectivity of all of it. It's almost impossible to miss how profoundly everything is connected and how we are just kind of one small piece of that. I think it's one of the things that I have appreciated about being out in nature is just how much it puts my own life in perspective. Yeah. And how that's an important thing. I remember as a kid, we would do a lot of hiking growing up as a family and little backpacking trips, and we were on one side of the mountain and there was this huge valley, and then there on the other side, and I was probably 14 or so, and I could see these people and they were all walking along the path and they just looked like so tiny, like little ants on this big hill. And I kind of had this moment of thinking about how each person on that path gets caught up in these problems that they have in their life, or these situations that are happening, or their stresses, and how those seem so monumental, and just seeing them across this massive mountain valley, it really just put my own life in kind of the bigger whole, part of the bigger picture that way. So I've always been really grateful to nature for that lesson and many others. I grew up in quite a religious family, actually, and so spirituality has been part of my life for a long time, and understanding the world outside of myself. And so I think I've also been really grateful to learn a lot about the spirituality of some of the local nations since being here, particularly on Musqueam territory, and really appreciated and have learned a lot from the relational connectivity, even encapsulated in the phrase that I hear often, like all my relations. An Indigenous elder in my life who's since passed, but he would often speak about how much was held in that phrase, all my relations. How easy it is to forget too, that connection to all the things. And so I think it's both this wonderful tension of we are part of such a bigger whole, and so it does put our life in a perspective, and also we're part of a bigger whole. Like it kind of goes both ways for me. Like it makes my stresses smaller to know that that web of connections exists, and also it expands my world so big to see how intertwined we all are, from human and non-human, and all of those kind of pieces, and how interwoven they really are together. It's beautiful to see how your journey twists and turns, and what opportunities come your way that way. And I really am someone who I've learned to respond and to embrace what's coming, rather than trying to create my 5-year plan and this is where I will go. I've really embraced the flexibility and the adaptivity of that part of my personality, how it opens up and really welcomes different kinds of artistic expressions at different points, in anticipating having this new human and welcoming them into the world. I'm quite excited to engage in play in a different way, as a bit of an artistic expression and imagination, and kind of re-see the world and re-experience the world again through the eyes of a child. I've always really appreciated having relationships, like friendships with children, and learned so much from their wisdom and just their joy. Yeah, it's just seeing, maybe it's finger painting or collecting some some rocks or leaves or something, and kind of seeing where that goes. So yeah.
Oh, that's beautiful. That's very beautiful.
I get really excited about the cracks in the system. And I think there are a lot of people doing a lot of incredible work and in these groups together that's really pushing back against that sense of that individualism and that kind of constant upward trajectory of capitalism is the dream. I get really excited about the other dreams that are rising up alongside of that, and the way that there's a new imagination being fostered and cultivated and lived into, really. And so there's so many groups of people that are living into a different world right now in a way that I think it's very hopeful. There's a lot of work to be done, and I don't think that those two things are at odds with each other. So I think the living into the new reality, living into a different imagination of how the world can be, drawing on ancestral wisdom, drawing on the practices of our Indigenous elders and the people in our communities, drawing on the joy, the beauty of how children see the world. I think those things are direct threats to the oppressive systems, and the more we live into them, and the more we can foster that joy in the resistance, then I think the more people we will gather into these communities too. Everybody has a place, and everybody has a way that they can be expanding that imagination and expanding that way of living in the world that is contrary to the really violent and death-dealing system that I think colonial capitalism really cultivates. There's a lot of reason to hope, and the more we can create spaces to bring us together, to kind of encourage and let each other know what we're doing in these different pockets, I think the more that bolsters everybody up too, because it is hard sometimes to keep on keeping on, because the colonialism can be really loud and it can really dominate thinking, and it has dominated our thinking and our imaginations for so long, which is why I think arts is so central to the whole piece and the whole journey, and has been for generations, because there is a really profound leaning into this other way, this life-giving, life-forming way for all people. I do think there's a lot of reason to hope, and I also understand when people aren't in that place. I was remembering kind of part of my PhD work and hosting some arts-based workshops. Part of what came out there was this sense that art can be scary for a lot of people. So on kind of a micro scale, asking somebody to write a poem when they don't write poetry, they don't think of themselves as an artist, or creating a collage or drawing a picture, but then understanding how the process really pulls them out of themselves and allows them to see these connections being made across difference, across other ideas, how there's synergy in what they made with someone else, and being able to kind of really dive into some of these challenging topics that can be really difficult or scary to talk about, and that are from the dominant system really intentionally not talked about, like race, like oppression, class, these different pieces that we're kind of numbed along the way. And so I think art is a jolting, a startling process that as we're ushered into it in inhospitable spaces and led through that, it can be really a powerful way to see our small creation connecting us into a broader whole, and how that can be that inertia to kind of start that ball moving and start to kind of prick at our minds and create, oh, maybe there's the possibility of something different. Different questions arise, and I love questions. I think there's so much beauty in a really excellent question, and often I appreciate a good question more than I appreciate a cheap answer. I've been really intrigued in my life to look back and see how art is my closest companion in when times are really difficult. How creativity can feel really far away when everything is going fine. And so I don't know what to say in that, other than if things are really challenging for you at the moment, walk closely with art and creativity in that time, and lean on them like a friend, not for easy answers, but maybe for some companionship and possibly some beauty that might come out of that down the road.
Wow. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah.